All right, here we go. Right.
Hello, this is Jeff of TAOFLEDERMAUS. We have another episode of You Make It, We Mock It, where our own viewers design the ammo of the future. Today we have a really cool one called the Twin 50 Sabot round. This consists of two 50 cal muzzle-loading bullets, each one weighing 300 grains. The two bullets ride inside a three-piece discarding Sabot. Now this is a project I've kind of been dreading because there are so many things that can go wrong with this setup. The Twin 50 is the brainchild of a viewer named Michael Smith. And here is a photo of a Michael Smith. I think this is actually a British professional pub crawler / dart player. After all, you go to the pub to drink and then play a little bit of darts. Now this design, like all designs submitted to us, has never been tested before. And I have to come up with a system to launch these things using 10 to 12,000 psi of barrel pressure. So we have to support those two big heavy bullets, and all we have to support it with is that thin plastic gas seal on the back of this bullet. The two bullets weigh about 1,000 pounds during acceleration. So we have to figure out a way to distribute all the force evenly across the bullets and the Sabot. Now if we just use a standard fiber wad, it's going to just crush that plastic gas seal. Inertial setback will cause the two bullets to shift backwards, and they will no longer be held properly in the Sabot. So my solution is a custom-made TP printed wad. So yeah, it's actually made out of toilet paper pulp that's been formed and compressed and dried out. It works great. We now have support extending up into the bullet. We have support pushing against the Sabots. And if this works, we should have no stress on any single component. It all should be very even now. Now the next thing we have to figure out is how to fit all this stuff into a 3-inch hole. So we're using a really short gas seal, and on top of that we're putting a penny. The penny is used to give additional support. On top of the penny we put our TP printed custom wad. And then finally on top of everything we put the monster size Twin 50 round. Now the length of the Twin 50 is 1 5/8 inches long, or 42 millimeters, and it just leaves very little room in the shell for anything else. You see why everything has to be so compact. And this is what it ends up looking like after we give it a Nick Ross roll crimper roll crimp. Very little roll crimp there. Now I'll shut up and we'll go out and test these, and we'll find out if two bullets in one is better than one bullet. Well, I couldn't have picked a more miserable day to shoot on. Today is 103 degrees Fahrenheit. And yeah, I did ask someone to come out and help me, but unfortunately they had to spend the weekend organizing their sock drawer. So today we'll be using the robotic launch device supplied to us by Brian from Cincinnati. And you may have noticed that the Mossberg 500 is fitted with a smoothbore barrel. And this is because every video I post, people want to see how different projectiles behave out of a smoothbore, even though we know for a fact that they need rifling for stability. But for some reason, people just don't believe me, and they want to see it for themselves. So we're going to give you a lesson on why rifling is a thing. And today's target is 20 yards away. That's 60 feet or about 19 meters. It's a nice big target and should not be difficult to hit.
Jeez.
Without any spin at all, the bullet ends up just flying sideways. And we only see one bullet. I don't even know where the second one even went. The accuracy was pretty bad. I was aiming at that little orange dot in the middle of that Kevlar vest. So hopefully now you understand why we use a rifle barrel to stabilize projectiles such as this. Bullet-shaped projectiles need spin for stability. And another thing we notice is the debris, all the broken pieces of the discarding Sabot. In fact, we could probably call these disintegrating Sabots. Now our goal here is to have stable flying projectiles which tend to be more accurate. After all, if they're not stable, the chances of them being accurate are pretty slim. You might get lucky though. Next, we're going to use a fully rifled barrel, and with luck, it'll function better and I won't look like a fool and be completely wrong.
Okay, full rifling. Little different results there.
The results of using rifling is like night and day. We now have 2 bullets flying through the air that we can see. They're both spinning, and then we have about an inch spread between the two. And I was actually quite relieved to see it function properly. This is probably the first time this has ever been done, at least documented. People may have tried this before, who knows, but there's nothing out there proving that. Now, as far as the accuracy goes, it was a big improvement, even though these shot a little bit low. We can always adjust for that. Well, let's take a look and see if we can find the 2 bullets in the Kevlar.
Now, it did shoot a little bit low. Remember, we're aiming here, so we had a little bit of a drop. We may have to adjust for that as we progress here. And you can see that this one definitely hit nose first. This one most likely did.
Now, in this test, it functioned pretty much how I imagined them to function. One bullet ahead of the other. They stayed kind of together in this one, no spread at all, and impacted together on this 3/8 inch mild steel plate. And a quick thank you from Brian from Northern California, who brought this plate down and did some tests with us a couple weeks ago. If you haven't seen that video, please check it out and meet one of our slug creators. Now again, the accuracy was pretty good. Used the same point of aim, and again we had about an inch and a half drop on that. So it might be safe to adjust the aim now and hit where we want it to hit. Let's take a look at the damage.
Actually, I think it was like that. So I was aiming right here, just a little bit low. Looks like we may have to start adjusting our aim, at least an inch up. It's very substantial, single impact. Looked like they were both flying right behind each other like a little freight train. Didn't get any spread on that one, which is interesting. So the full impact hit the 3/8 mild steel plate, left a nice substantial bulge on there. Not bad. Let's see if I can get double penetration with the Twin 50. All right, here we go. Yikes. All right, here we go. Yikes.
Here we see an absolute impressive shot. I was thrilled to see this. Great accuracy. Tiny bit of spread there. Good spin. And just a massive hole in that old military helmet. You can see light all the way through that, by the way. 1.4 ounces of lead going over 1,500 feet per second definitely does some damage to a military helmet. And that's definitely the biggest hole we've ever put into a helmet like that.
So we had 2 impacts. They were flying very close to each other, but 2 separate impacts creating this huge hole. Actually, you can see where you can't bend that back, and then it continued on out the back here. Not bad at all. That's nasty. Next up is the TAOFLEDER head. We got wild blueberry juice at this time. Expired. I tried to drink it and almost threw up. It was like 6 years old, past its prime. Okay, let's see if we can hit that bottle in the center. Wow. Wow. Let's see if we can hit that bottle in the center. Wow.
The goggles, they do nothing. And here we have another very impressive shot. Looks like we lost one of the little green gas seals on that, but the two bullets did impact very close together. And this might be one of the goriest headshots we've ever done. Watch how the top of the head just kind of bursts like a balloon. The Twin 50 is definitely a formidable round, and I thought there would be all kinds of issues with these things, but they're functioning quite well. And if you haven't done it already, we would appreciate it if you take the time to rate the video. Give it a thumbs up if you appreciate the time we put into making this. And your comments are greatly appreciated too. We actually read them, and I reply to as many as I possibly can. You won't get ignored here.
Well, the Twin 50, you can see two distinct holes there. I don't know if the light helps or not. Right by his eyeball, kind of by his temple, and then end up exiting out of his ear. So pretty gruesome. It still hit, you know, there was a water bottle in there. It was spit out the top. Just ejected that water bottle. That was a very violent, big bubble of a of expansion there. That was pretty cool. All right, see what it does to the lead plate. 30 pounds, 1.5 inches thick. Engage. Wow. Oh, a lot of energy there. Engage. Wow. Oh.
Now in this shot I aimed slightly high and we got it pretty much dead center. Absolutely impressive. Again, we lost one of those little green gas seals. There's not a lot actually holding those little pieces onto the back of the bullet.
Pretty much aiming right at the center of the plate. Got two, maybe about an inch of spread there. Both equal energy. Just burrowed in there. That's pretty impressive for a lead projectile. Could go that deep. We got the velocity, we got a lot of weight, and those bullets seem to be working quite well. Good job, Michael Smith. Okay, we got the ballistic jelly. Ballistic jelly, engage. Wow, that's a lot of force there. Ballistic jelly, engage. Wow, that's a lot of force there.
My gosh, I think it did as much damage to that poor steel table as it did to the ballistic gel. Watch it just turn into a taco. Now the shot did land a little bit low, but it did go parallel all the way through the block. A lot of expansion there. It just ripped up that piece of cardboard, tore up my poor table. I had a Kevlar body armor panel behind there. We'll see if we could, we were able to capture one of those bullets at least and see what that looks like. But wow. I gotta say I'm absolutely impressed with the Twin 50 Sabot round. Now the block, it ended up flying into kind of a weed patch, so it had goat heads and all kinds of stuff stuck to it. I tried to clean it up out in the field to show you, but it was still pretty murky looking. And being out in that 103-degree weather did not help matters. So I brought it home, scrubbed it up really good, and hit it with a heat gun so we could see what it looks like. Now the two bullets entered the right side of the block, and you can see that we got a pretty good amount of expansion. There's one of the gas seals. We see bullet fragments that have fractured off from it and flying outwards. And then down here about the 12, 14-inch mark, we have, I just already cut it, but a little bullet fragment. That's how much energy these things transfer. So absolutely impressive energy transfer to the block, and we still had full penetration. And I think this round would have no problem taking out the biggest wild hog you could find. Now this is one of the bullets I found. I could not find both of them because I think one of them just pretty much disintegrated in the block. But this one more or less survived but expanded quite a bit. And we can actually see the emboss marks from the gaps in the Sabot and the embossing from hitting the Kevlar at the nose of it. So it was still flying straight as it went through that block. So we did get a little bit of expansion. It started out at 50 caliber and ended up about 5/8 of an inch, or about 17 millimeters in diameter after it expanded. And this is what the bullet looked like before and after. Pretty cool. Well, we have one more round left. We're going to take a 40-yard shot, twice the distance, and see how that performs.
Okay, here we go. A complete miss. Okay, here we go.
Now, at 20 yards, we were seeing from a 0 to, well, 1.5 inch spread. But I think this shot was just mostly a failure. And had we shot it at 20 yards, we'd probably seen a 6-inch spread on it. I think this one just, in all honesty, I'm not trying to make excuses, was just badly loaded or something like that. Something happened and it just was bad. I'm sorry. But you know what? We had to try. And I think that one was just a dud. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to quickly thank our Patreon supporters, our channel members, and even Dominator. He has been giving us like a $5 super thanks sticker, whatever you call it, like every single video. So I just had to give him a quick thank you. And trust me, it all helps. It pays for the gas. It pays for all the stuff that we keep breaking and helps us get new targets. And we'll catch you next time with another cool 12-gauge projectile. See ya.